Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. From Cape Cod to Cancun, from Vegas to the Vatican, I am your host, Jeff Dawson of the Breakfast Bankroll. And it's Friday, so that means our man from I'd say a little across the border in Canada, the man with NHL on his brain today, which I can't wait. It's October 1st. That means hockey's about to get into full swing. But without further ado, good friend of ours, Mr. Andrew McInnis. Andrew,
what's up, Jeff?
How are you today, sir?
Doing great. Good to be here. Busy morning so far. A few different shows to do. Jam-packed weekend. I'm actually hosting a golf tournament for the media company I'm a co-founder of. So trying to get all my work done during the morning and looking forward to going over some picks with you. And I saw you mentioning with me, we were talking on Twitter earlier about how, you had got some landscaping going on outside your house and your dog is kind of, going crazy about it. I actually just picked out my puppy yesterday, so I'm going to get used to that life myself. But I'm officially going to be a dog dad, so I'm looking forward to those struggles.
Yeah, I was going to pre-warn everyone. My dog goes everywhere. She's 12 and a half puggle, hyper sensitive ears when it comes to trucks, whether it's UPS, the mailman, FedEx, Amazon. And today we hit the daily double. We have the landscape company with the asphalt company. So everyone listening and watching, please bear with us. Maybe it's a sign, Andrew. It's the weekend and maybe the dogs will be barking loud.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you have to just take whatever life throws at you. If your dog is barking, maybe we'll run down the NFL board and we'll pick some dogs we like.
So the intro, NHL preseason, follow you obviously religiously. Your timeline's blowing up. You're actually dabbling into some preseason games. Give us an idea in the preseason what you're looking for. Is it strictly on matchups, or are you looking for value, or all the above?
Yeah, so so far, I think that there's two biggest things you want to look for. Number one, motivation, and number two, experience. Those are kind of the two key words I've been using. And people have noticed that you can make money betting the NFL preseason. And I remember a couple weeks back in the summer, even I had some friends saying to me like, hey, what are you doing betting the NFL preseason, right? And if you talk to people like us that bet every day and discuss sports betting every day and handicap these games, you realize sometimes you can find an even better edge, in week 1 of the NFL preseason than week 7 of the regular season, because it's all, at the end of the day, it's all about cashing tickets, making money, building your bankroll up, as we are here on the Breakfast Bankroll. And when I look at these NHL preseason games, you can look at a lot of line movements, Jeff. It's unbelievable. The numbers are the odds changing. A couple nights ago, I was on Sports Grid radio with Gabe Morency. We looked at a overnight preseason NHL game. We were laughing at ourselves because we thought it was so funny. We were betting an NHL game overnight in the preseason, but it was the Oilers visiting the Jets, and the Oilers had played that night, the night that we were talking, and they had absolutely dominated in their matchup. They had Connor McDavid was out there. They had Zach Hyman were out there, and they had so many key pieces out there. We just knew on a back-to-back, when they go on the road, they aren't going to bring those guys. They weren't going to put out a good lineup. And the overnight number at FanDuel was minus 125. The next day at 6 o'clock Eastern, the number was minus 240. It went from minus 125 overnight to minus 240, almost minus 250 at some spots. So I guess I would say looking towards home teams. Home teams are huge because you want to win for your fans. You want your fans to get a show. You want your fans to be able to see your new prospects, but you also want to give them a win. They're paying their money. They're coming out to go see you. So a lot of the times, and I've experienced this even when I covered junior hockey, when teams go on the road in preseason, they're bringing their young guys because so what if you get embarrassed 6-1? You're on the road. Nobody really sees you get embarrassed. But at home, and you can see that being reflected in the lines and in the odds, because you really see a lot of the times the home teams are the favorites. So tonight, looking at Dallas visit Florida, Dallas actually lost last game in a shootout, but they had a lot of their vets out there. They're on the road now. I expect to see some starters in from Florida. So I think Florida's a play for me. They already opened up at minus 140. So for all the viewers and listeners out there, I would say if your book is offering it right now, jump on the Florida Panthers and take a look at them right now, because the numbers move quite a bit. And it's not going to take long until those numbers start to shoot up.
So I just your Wager Talk, as I say every day when I'm on this show, hats off to Wager Talk. Absolute one-stop shopping, and it's free, guys. It's free.
Yes.
Wagertalk.com odds, and it's one-stop shopping. You cannot beat it. So I pulled up the board right here. You were talking about Dallas, Florida, right there. Anything else today might jump out at you?
Well, there was a few different ones I was looking at Pittsburgh, Buffalo, like that's a game where I could look towards a dog in that game, looking at Buffalo. It's kind of everything lines up for something that I would look at, a home team, a team that struggled for years, a team with, countless prospects. So they're a team that I could, they have, and Pittsburgh, they're a veteran-based team. They have some younger players as well, and they have some guys on the come up, but for the most part, that's a team that's made the playoffs for how many years in a row? How many times have they done well? Sidney Crosby will be out to start the season. Evgeny Malkin's out right now. This is a team that shouldn't really care about the preseason, but we'll see what. Obviously, Buffalo will be putting out a pretty young lineup, but I think they're worth a pretty decent shot here as a home dog. And taking a look at LA and Vegas again, Vegas. I'm going to look towards the over in this game. I think LA's actually got some pretty talented prospects. They've got some younger guys that can score. LA might turn things around this year. They've been kind of the only thing good about them is they've played spoiler a lot, come the playoff hunt lately over the past few years and stuff like that. But I think this year they're going to score some goals. They're going to be involved in some overs. And if you see 5.5 this year with the Kings, I look towards the over. But today, Vegas and LA, I'm going to go over 6.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong here. Did LA and Vegas play last night?
Yeah, I think. Yes. Let's look at the scores.
Because I think I fell asleep to that game last night in the third.
Yeah, so it was 3-1 Kings. Yeah, so it was 3-1 Kings. I stayed off that game because first of all, we saw Robin Leonard in net. For the Kings, we actually did see a few guys like Quentin Byfield and Philip Deneau. So a good mixture of younger and older guys. But I wasn't involved in too many NHL games yesterday. Honestly, I was traveling, so I did all my work earlier, and a lot of the information comes out later in the afternoon. But that's the thing. So because it's a back-to-back, we saw more of a shutdown game. We saw more, I think what's funny, Jeff, is that I used to say that it was the opposite back in the day. And now it's more so the first game is lower scoring and the second game is higher scoring, where you think, 10 years ago, it would have been the opposite. First game, you got your energy with you. You're going to, put up an over. And the second game, it's going to be a shutdown game. It's kind of turned into the opposite now. So on the second half of a back-to-back, I'm looking more towards the over.
Okay, so let's switch gears. We're gonna go
and
right
there's the bark. That's supporting my Buffalo Sabres pick right there, and the first dog of the day.
And once the show is over, I will be on that pick. Trust me on that one. We're gonna switch gears. We're gonna go over to the NFL right now. Weekend is on Sunday, obviously a couple days away. Let's get up to some spreads. On our show last Friday, we talked about the Saints and the Pats and the fact that I thought we'd get the good Jameis. Were the Pats peeking ahead to Tom coming to town, and it was a box-to-wire win by the Saints there. Great board, great matchups. What are you seeing in the NFL this weekend, Andrew?
First of all, I just have to give you credit again, because I know a lot of people, even handicappers that are from the Mass area, have a tough time going against their team. So I know you probably made some money on them as well. Definitely have. So I got to give you some credit for that. I'll tell you, that game went even easier than I thought it would be. I didn't think it would be that sweat-free. So happy we got the job done with that one. As I take a look towards the card, there's I've actually been more of an under better this year so far, start the year versus the over. But when I look at a team like Seattle, I think I have to go towards the over. I mean, I don't know. I look at what they've done so far. I look at, how poor their secondary is, Jeff, and it's abysmal, man. It's just like they get marched all over. They get exposed on short passes. They get exposed deep. Their pass rush has been really, really rough. I don't think it's really been too dangerous. And we saw Kirk Cousins look like Tom Brady last week, and I can't believe I'm saying that. This guy looked confident, throwing everywhere, throwing darts, and he looked protected. So, I think this Seattle team, and it was interesting. I was working with somebody else a couple of days ago, and we were talking about this game, and credit goes to Andy Lang from Wager Talk. He made a point saying, well, if you look at it, a lot of these drives and time of possession for Seattle aren't very long. You look at some teams and they're so talented. Even look at, we'll use the Patriots last year with Cam Newton as an example. They would milk the clock like it was the best thing in the world and just try and, first down after first down. Seattle is the complete opposite. It's almost like they're playing a game of, how few plays can we run before we score a touchdown, And so what's funny about them is that they have the, more than enough skill to score these TDs, but their defense, it doesn't get that much of a break. Even if their offense scores, their defense is still fatigued, which was a really eye-opening point that he made. And I know it isn't, the most exhilarant point to make, but it's interesting because you look at time of possession and you look at this Seahawks team, and they don't really hold the ball for long. They get out there and they throw a 25-yard pass to start their drive off. I look at San Fran, and I think that, their defense, I believe, is a little bit overrated. And Jimmy G, we know what happened to them last week against my Green Bay Packers. It was a really bad ending for them in a game that they competed until the end, and they actually were dominating out the gate. So I think this sets up for an over. Total at 52 and a half. I think this game is going to be a shootout from start to finish. We'll see if that plays out, but both quarterbacks are more than capable, and they have talented receivers. Any disagreement there?
It's funny because I think Seattle's more the desperate team now in the fact that they've lost a couple in a row. It's a divisional game. Yes, San Fran was 37 seconds away from going to 3-0. Okay.
Right.
So now in comes Seattle, and Russ has had great success against the Niners in his career. So I'll go a step further here. We'll take a quick look at your team totals. See if we can bring that up here. So we got a 27 and a hook over minus 111, 25 and a half under minus 118. So the initial thought is, San Fran get to 27, 28. And I guess the key to this over will rely on Seattle. Do they get to that 27 number? It opened at 24 and a hook under, and at Pinnacle right now, 25 and a half. So again, you got that 52 number staring you right in the face.
Yeah.
Do we get
Over's
to that?
5-0-1 too, last 6, and 4-1 last 5 in San Francisco.
Yeah. So when I was looking at this game here, we were fortunate enough to be on the Packers last week. We also dabbled, as Kelly would said, a little pizza money on the money line there at the plus 160. Very fortunate there, but we'll take it. But here, I actually like Seattle. Preseason, we had San Fran winning the West, but potentially winning the NFC as well. They can go 3-2. They could lose back-to-back. They play a lot better on the road. They, for some reason, seem to struggle at home. And I always say this about Russ. He's like a tea bag. He doesn't get working till he's in hot water. And I think he's in real hot water. So I think you're going to see early and often Russ. And they're going to get out early. And unfortunately, they cannot stop the run. They can't stop a nosebleed.
No.
So does Jimmy G
it's
and company,
bad too.
Yes. Do they get that ground and pound going with Sermon and is Elijah Mitchell playing? I have no idea who's going to be back there. But I think this does set up for an over. We want good flow back and forth. And
Yes.
I think you nailed it, Andrew. I think this is a perfect spot for that.
Well, let me ask you this, because I had a bigger play last week on Seattle. And, I knew the reasons, on the other side, it was a Vikings team looking for a win at home. Crowd was into it. Cousins can throw the ball. But some of the mistakes that were made from the Seahawks and even just their defense, like you said, it was almost like a tunnel, the way that the rushers were going through for the Vikings. It just seemed like it was far too easy for them to get through. Does that worry you at all with the Seahawks play? Because part of me wanted to go back on them as well, but for that reason that I listed, I'm kind of just sticking towards the total because, like I said, I think if the Seattle Seahawks are competing in this game, I'm not surprised if they give up multiple touchdowns. This is going to be a prop game as well. I'm recording our show on Wager Talk, Prop It Up at 12 o'clock or 11 a.m. Eastern, and we're going to be talking props. And I'll tell you, DK Metcalf hit his receiving yards for me midway through the second quarter. So that was like only minus 110 as well. So instead of betting spreads or totals, you can look at props in this game as well. Might be a good idea.
I agree. And I was listening this morning to before we got on to John Hansen, and they were talking about Lockett right now, who did some work yesterday. Keep an eye on Lockett, a potential hip injury or something.
Okay.
So if Lockett's out, obviously, if you're looking and leaning to a DK Metcalf prop, you might want to buy in before, just in case Lockett is out or limited on Sunday. Yeah, I mean, when you are betting on a team with the poorest defense, it is tough. Minnesota now, Cousins, I got to give a lot of props to Cousins because he's had an amazing start. If you backtrack, they should have beaten the Bengals opening week. They lost in overtime after Dalvin Cook fumbled. Then they go to Arizona, and they were box to wire winning that game. And then they trailed late in the fourth, and then the field goal kicker missed the chip shot to win the game. And then so 0-2, must-win situation. And that was a coin flip game. And they came out, they took control. Jefferson, Dalen, and even Dalvin was out, but Matson just steps right in. Mm-hmm. So props to Cousins. Can they keep it up? I mean, he's got a tough game this week. I mean, that Clowney and now I'm going to draw Garrett bookends for the Browns. They've just been phenomenal. Ask Justin Fields. I think he's still sore from Sunday last week. More sacks and completions. But yeah, that's the hard part, Andrew, it is when you lean towards a team and then you start dissecting their faults. And then what happens in our business? You start second guessing yourself.
Right. Well, that's what I find and it's actually a topic we're discussing today on our prop show, is that we look at some of these props and it's like, okay, when do you know when to stick with it? And when do you know when the time is to drop off? Because I think that's the most important thing to know in gambling in general. Is a lot of the times people will look at a team like I am right now with Seattle and being frustrated with my loss last week, and then jump ship. And like you use the T-Bag example, and then watch me jump off the ship and Russell Wilson go 3-0 the next 3 weeks, and that's what happens, right? So I'm with you. And that's why I find that you can learn from your losses. And I'm not trying to have an overreaction, but let's be honest, the Seattle defense hasn't really been anything too exciting for a long time. I'm not just overreacting to last week. And I think San Fran is at home. You mentioned that Green Bay, and obviously I'm a Green Bay fan, so I loved watching that. And it was fortunate, but at the exact same time, San Fran put up the points of their own, but their defense wasn't impressive either. And I know it's Aaron Rodgers. I'm a fan. I'm a huge Rodgers fan, despite what everybody says about him. He picked that defense apart, but I still believe that Russ will be able to do the exact same thing. And he throws the ball deep, like I said. I mean, it's not like they're going to have short drives. So what about the Chiefs game? What about the Chiefs game? Because that's a game that everyone wants to talk about. I broke that game down earlier in the week, and There's also a saying mentioned Kelly's name, that chalk eating weasel is a new shirt that she has. And so whenever she says that, I'm like, I don't want to eat chalk. Like, I don't want to be someone that's always laying points. And I like betting dogs. But if you look at the Chiefs ATS record, what is it, like 1-11 now, last 12 or something like that? This is a team that statistically you aren't backing against the spread, but they're playing the Philadelphia Eagles. So when you look at them, I just want to ask you, because I've been asking everybody this question. Do you think that Jalen Hurts is getting a little bit disrespected? Because I think he is. And I'm not defending him. I'm just saying that there's a lot more a lot more going wrong around him than just his performance on the football field. So would you agree with me there, or is a lot of the blame we should put on Jalen Hurts?
We were 4-0 last week in the circuit contest.
Sweet.
with the Eagles plus 3.5.
Okay.
We also at ECSI gave out the Eagles plus 3.5, sprinkle a little on the plus 160 money line. I talked all week about this game, and I specifically said this. You got the home opener for Dallas. How is Philly going to compete with the opportunity to win? Well, first of all, you got to win the turnover battle. Second of all, you got to establish the run. Okay, you're not going to go into Dallas and get into a shootout with Dak because Jalen is not at Dak's level yet. Okay, so your question is great because I don't think it's Jalen, because at the end of the game, I knew at the end of the first quarter we were dead. We were dead. His first 6 plays were all passes. Okay, they were fortunate to tie at 7-7. Okay, at the half they're down 20-7 and they're getting the ball. So here I'm on Twitter just spitting venom. I'm like, OC, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You haven't established Miles Sanders. You haven't established Gainwell.
I know Sanders barely touched the ball. Yeah.
Correct. So, okay, I was like, second half, regroup. Let's get a nice long drive. Let's get some points on the board, and let's get back into this game. Pick 6. Thanks for playing. Shut the game off. It's over. So they're saying that the head coach and the OCs are over their skis. They don't know how to plan.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know how to script plays. And rumor has it that they wanted Peterson to be a puppet. And he says, thanks, but no thanks. I'm not going to be a puppet. I'm not doing the analytical game. I'm not going to play your card. I'm going to play my card, and I'm out. And I think these guys are puppets. So I believe in Jalen Hurts. I do. But I don't know if it's the OC or the head coach.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Like, I look at this game and, it's – I wouldn't really would you call it a get-right game for the Chiefs? Because it's hard to call this a get-right game again. Maybe we can call it an ATS get-right game. How about that? An ATS get-right game. Because it's definitely not an outright money line get-right game. Because even though they're coming off that game against the Chargers, I love Justin Herbert. I think he's great. I think the Chargers have talent. I actually have a shot on them to win the Super Bowl. So I'm not shocked. I'm not overly surprised by what happened last week. Heading into this week, you mentioned team totals. Are you a big team total player? Because maybe we can look at that. But again, talking about props, a lot of times when I bet props, I bet on bad teams. Looking at, because someone has to catch balls still on these bad teams, right? Someone has to run the ball still. So one of the things I look at for props is actually the bad teams. But it's hard to avoid Travis Kelce every week. It's hard to avoid Tyreek Hill's longest catch every week. And this week, over 2.5 passing touchdowns. Doesn't look like a bad play for Patrick Mahomes.
No, and what we do with the team totals here basically is it kind of sets up the narrative, meaning we're a big opening line team here. So when the opening line is released, what we do then is we peel back the onions. Okay, so for example here, let's go to Kansas City and Philadelphia here. We're going to go to the spreads. Okay. It's 6.5. Okay. Well, we're going to go to the over under, and it's 54. So basic math will tell you initially that Vegas is telling you that the final score of this game is going to be 30-24.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Vegas is telling you. Okay. So now we go to the team totals. And what do we have? We have 31-24. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So at your book, it might be 30.5 juiced over.
Right.
Philly might be 24.5 juiced under. So like yesterday on the Jaguar game, I talked about it on the show with Dave Sharapan. And I basically said the key to that game and the Jags covering is their team total was 17.5 juiced under. If they get to 20, 21, or 23, more likely than not, they're going to cover the 7.5 or 8 because the Cincinnati team total was 27.5 juiced under. And then the final score was 24-21.
Yeah,
So,
I love team totals. I can't remember who it was. I wish I could remember, but I had a team total under a few weeks back, and it was looking absolutely horrible in the first half. I mean, I was thinking to myself, why did I take this? Couldn't believe it. Then come the fourth quarter, the team scored three points in the second half so far, ended up winning it. And I look to myself, and sometimes you think, and I do this as well in the NHL because I'm a huge totals guy in the NHL. And I think like, well, if I like this team total, then why don't I just bet them to win? Well, the reason is because if they win, like Tampa Bay, you're laying minus 170. Take them over 3.5 goals, and you're getting minus 110, 115, and that's what's cool about the team totals. You're just completely taking the other team out of the picture and just hoping that they light up that goalie like a Christmas tree. And we'll be getting into the Olympic talk on one of our Friday shows, but some of the team totals we see in the Olympics, I mean, what is USA playing China day one? What's their team total going to be? 29.5? And that's no offense against them either, China either, but that's going to be a tough start.
No, that is going to be a tough start. We have a minute and a half to go. I wanted to put this up here. UFC Saturday, 68% in your best bet since December 20th. Tell everyone, A, where they can get this, B, where they can follow you, and C, weekend packages, week packages. The stage is yours here, Andrew.
I just want to say thanks a lot for having me on again, Jeff. It's awesome that we're mixing in some other shows or other sports now on the show and talking some NFL together. And I hope it's okay. I'm flipping some of these questions back to you, but it's just nice to have a discussion. And I love getting your input as well. So yeah, UFC. Not a lot of people know me for UFC, but I just chip away with it every event, Jeff. I'm not too salesy with it. I don't really tweet as much about it. I enjoy UFC. I am absolutely crazy about NHL. I love watching the CFL, but I casually watch and have some beers with my friends with the UFC. I handicap it statistically and matchup wise. But yeah, the numbers kind of speak for themselves. 68% since last December, super low volume. This is not a sport where I spread out all my leans and the plays I like. I'm giving out 1, 2, maximum 3 plays per weekend. And this is my first top-rated UFC play, 5% play I've had in well over a couple months. So looking forward to it. It goes off Saturday night. You can go to wagertalk.com or wt.buzz/am, my initials, and grab that play. So looking forward to it. We also have our prop show coming up on Wager Talk, and that's where you can find all of our prop information and prop packages. So looking forward to that. That starts actually in 15 minutes, the recording, but the show actually won't be live for like, I think, an hour or two. It will be replayed.
Follow him at McInnis Picks, at Wager Talk, at Sports Mayflower. Go over to YouTube, Mayflower Sports. Subscribe. This is Andrew McInnis. He is amazing, and I love our Fridays. And thank you so much. And I can't wait. Best of luck this weekend, and can't wait to see you again next Friday, brother.
Thanks so much, Jeff.